The odds are against you.
The odds are always against me.
Ridley Scott really needs to stop making sequels to his own movies. Let's get into it. So Gladiator 2 is the sequel to Ridley Scott's Gladiator, released back in 2000. Set roughly 19 years after the original Gladiator, Paul Mescal plays an older Lucius Verus, a kid you're definitely not going to remember from the first film. What's funny though, is in the original Gladiator, Lucius was played by Spencer Treat Clark, who would be old enough to play an older version of himself, and is still acting. And the fact that they've retconned Lucius to be Maximus's child literally ruins the entire point of the original Gladiator film. Anyway, as an adult, Lucius is living in Numidia with his wife Arishat when they're invaded by the Roman army. Lucius's wife is killed by General Acacius, played by Pedro Pascal, setting up the film's revenge plot. After losing the battle, Lucius becomes a slave, then of course goes from slave to gladiator.
The slave who became a gladiator. The gladiator who defied an emperor.
Now, before I watched Gladiator 2, I was thinking to myself, don't compare it to the original. But when the sequel takes and uses so much from the original film, it's hard not to. What made the original Gladiator so great was the story and its characters. However, Gladiator 2 trades it all in for more fights and spectacle. I mean, don't get me wrong, the fights were entertaining and far grander than the Colosseum fights in the original, but some of them was ridiculously over the top, to the point where I found myself googling to see if that shit actually happened. Like the scene where they filled the Colosseum arena with water for naval battles. The fact that they actually did that shit back in ancient Rome is crazy. But then Ridley had to go one step too far by adding sharks into the arena, and it just became overkill. Like, I'm no historian or biologist by any means, but I'm pretty fucking sure that shit didn't happen. For me, it was just too ridiculous. And what I'll say is, the on-foot fights and the chariot battles in the original are way more intense than any of the scenes in Gladiator 2. And I thought Paul Mescal did a decent job as the lead.
Rome has taken everything from me, but I will have my vengeance.
But his character and story compared to Russell Crowe's are leagues apart.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, loyal servant to the true emperor, Marcus Aurelius.
Denzel Washington plays Macrinus, probably the most interesting character in the entire film, but I mean, come on, it's Denzel. He's gonna be the most interesting character.
I own you now. But whose head could I give you to satisfy your fury?
Joseph Quinn and Fred Hershinger played the roles as crazy tyrannical twin emperors really well, but we get zero backstory to the characters. It doesn't even explain how or why the dual leaders, or why they're just so goddamn crazy. Again, that's what the first film does so well. It sets the stage for Commodus to be the main antagonist, and it does a great job doing so, giving us clear motivations.
Father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance, in this life or the next.
Meanwhile, the sequel can't decide who it even wants the main villain to be. To be honest, the pacing throughout the entirety of Gladiator 2 is lightning fast and gives you zero breathing room. Something big will happen, and before you even have time to process it, the film's like, yo, check this next scene out, and you're just left like, oh, okay, I guess we're moving on. Half of the time, the story's that rushed, it can't keep track of its own character's motivations. It's like, slow down, breathe for fuck's sake. The film felt like it needed at least another hour to properly flesh out the story and the characters, so the audience could at the very least give a single fuck.
Is that the bag? Are all the I give?
It's empty.
Gladiator 2 could have also easily been split into two movies or a TV series, which would have done way more justice to the sheer amount of events the film tried to cram in. But hey, that's a Ridley Scott sequel for you. What should have happened in my opinion is similar to the Alien franchise. James Cameron should have just taken over the reins for this movie and called it Gladiators. I can guarantee it'd be better than the 2 hours and 28 minutes of trash that I sat through in this film. I mean, what is it about Ridley Scott fucking up the sequels to the films he originally directed? It's like he's doing it on purpose. First he fucks up the Alien franchise with his Prometheus bullshit, and now this. Man's a menace and needs to stop. However, the question nobody was asking has finally been answered, and that's, did Gladiator need a sequel? And of course the answer is no. So was I entertained?
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Also no. Honestly, if you want to watch a good Gladiator film, just rewatch the original. Until next time peeps, stay frosty.